It's Saturday night. That means it's time for the Don Tony Show.
The wait all week long is finally over. Get Don Tony's perspective on current affairs in the world of pro wrestling and much more. The Don Tony Show.
And now your host, the man, the legend, Don Tony.
All right, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Thank you, Robbie. All right, now I can officially say good morning, good afternoon, good night. How's everybody doing? It is Saturday, the 11th of November, 2023. Unbelievable how fast this year has gone by. This is your weekly edition of the Don Tony Show. I am Don Tony as always. Thank you very much for joining me. Today we are going to discuss some of the things that went down on SmackDown yesterday. A couple of forced turns, I think you could say, because the Survivor Series, obviously. I know a few of you were a little bit confused with my thumbnail preview that I posted a few days ago saying, wait a minute, why do you have Asuka on Team Damage Ctrl? Why do you have Shotzi and ZELINA Vega with Bianca Belair and Charlotte Flair? Well, if you tuned into last night's SmackDown, you've gotten some clarity. The big question is, some people are pushing for someone else to be on Bianca Belair's WarGames team. Do you actually dare have JADE CARGILL not only make her WWE in-ring debut, but in a WarGames match? Not so sure about that. We'll talk about it. I also want to talk a little bit about the news going around with Vince McMahon preparing to sell about 8 million shares of TKO stock. I will get into the origin of that story, the stock market reaction, which is always different than the internet wrestling community reaction, which is bizarre at times, and why some of this, you really got to be a little bit concerned about. I know people don't like to pay attention to the financial side of things, but with a publicly traded company and you realize the billions, not M, would it be, billions lost since that SmackDown TV deal was announced, this could affect some of the wrestlers that you see on TV. We will go back in time, not too long ago, and different circumstance, but financially wise, yeah, this actually could happen. And another thing, the Fox CEO, Murdoch, I don't remember his name. I got it written down. We'll get into it. He actually commented recently as to why Fox is not renewing SmackDown. And I swear to you, this is not being dramatic. This is not being a wise ass. This is not being an instigator. But for every AEW fan who is somewhat obsessed, or if you want to go one step further, to the AEW excuse makers that are obsessed with the weekly ratings and demos, you better pay very close attention of what this Fox CEO said. Because if you think that that cannot happen to AEW and affect AEW, I got news for you. When we get into the specifics, you won't admit it publicly, a lot of you, but deep down inside, you say to yourself, fuck, that's definitely something to be concerned about. And you don't want to be blindsided by it. That's the problem of some of the negative stuff going around with AEW right now. You see some of these journalists that are talking on both sides of their mouth. For 3 years, they were trying to give a verbal hand job to Tony Khan, to get a little buzz, a little exposure, a little rub, maybe even a job. You've seen it for 3 years. Now, some of the stuff that they were hiding under the pillow can no longer be hidden. It's almost like it's like a dog that like finds an area and he hides his toys. And you're like, Rover, where'd you put your toy? Rover, where'd you put your toy? And then after a while, you don't know where any of the toys are, but then you see this weird lump, like in the corner of a house or somewhere in your yard. You're like, oh, okay, you can't hide them anymore. So now, to save face, now they're forced to give it a little bit of criticism. Oh, fuck you. We'll talk about it. All right. Wrestling is not Dead Dream 101. Wrestling is very alive and well, but that doesn't mean you don't have peaks and valleys and bumps in the road. And this is an interesting one. And I think this is part of the reason why Vince McMahon is selling about 8 million shares. Let's make this clear. It's not all of his shares. It's only about 30% of his shares. But I will tell you the precise moment why I think Vince is selling some of these shares. For people out there that think, oh, he's being forced out, keep in mind, he still owns only 16% of TKO. He's not a majority shareholder. 16% is a lot. But when it comes to the executive decisions, remember, Endeavor has 6 on the board of directors. WWE has 5. So in the end, Vince could talk. He could piss in the wind. And he is not the majority decision maker anymore. So whether he owns 16% or owns 11% or owns 5%, he is still the chairman of WWE. And some of these people in the internet wrestling community are like singing and dancing. I mean, it almost feels like a religious experience. Like this, and I'm saying to myself, Vince's power is not changing right now. Whether that's good or bad, that's up to you to decide. He is selling about 30% of his shares because the stock has gone down 25% almost since the SmackDown TV deal was announced. That's the reason why. And we'll get into that a little bit. Let's talk a little SmackDown first because this has Survivor Series implications. Then we could talk about everything else. Now, if you saw my thumbnail, and do I have a picture of it? I think I have a picture of it. If not, you could go, oh yeah, I do have a picture of it. Here it is. I posted this for the preview for today's show about 3 days ago. And, I had a few DMs and a few posts like, where are you getting this from and everything? Well, little birdies that I talked to, this was the perceived WarGames match being pitched on the women's side. It was going to be Bianca Belair, Charlotte Flair, Shotzi Blackheart, and Zelina Vega versus Damage Ctrl minus Dakota Kai. She still cannot wrestle. She can't even brawl. They're not taking a chance. But they obviously needed a 4th member, and it made sense to put Asuka there. If you look back at the last 9 months, WWE has tried to turn Asuka heel. This is not the first time. If you remember, right after WrestleMania, right around that time, they were doing everything they could to turn her heel. Thing is that the fans were not buying it. They literally forced her to become babyface. Remember, when she was feuding a little bit with Bianca back then, she spit the mist, and the crowd still would not accept it. And they literally forced Asuka to remain as a babyface. Now, with Io Sky and Kairi Sane, and you think about the Sky Pirates, you think about the Kabuki Warriors, that's obviously a team that fans wanted to see reunited. This is the perfect opportunity where it makes sense. Earlier in the year, it felt like the only reason why they were turning Asuka heel is because they needed another heel. Charlotte Flair wasn't around that much at that time, so they wanted to put Asuka in that place, and it didn't work. It didn't work. That's not Asuka's fault. It was just the fans creatively didn't want that. Now, this makes a hell of a lot of sense. And yesterday, most of this went down. Now, I'll give you some quick pictorial highlights because there was, I would say, three major issues to come out of SmackDown. LA Knight, I listen, the reports going around that people within WWE feel that LA Knight has reached the ceiling. Ignore it. That is just clickbait to try to get you to give some of these fools some ad revenue. LA Knight, let me put it this way. The same journalist in 1997 or 98 would have said that, WWE officials feel that Steve Austin has hit his peak, his ceiling. When he took on Bret Hart at WrestleMania 13 and he lost, people forget that he lost numerous world title matches when he first transitioned to Stone Cold. Nobody at that time, and I even have some of my hotline reports in the latter part of the 90s, nobody at that time thought Steve Austin had hit his ceiling. Now, we were just getting started. It's just in this day and age, the impatience, plus when you see the net and the way it is now, everything is instant gratification. You need some information, instantly done. You need directions, instantly done. You want a little bit of, stimulation, for in the privacy of, your own bedroom, instantly done. Anything you want is right there at your fingertips. People don't like to wait anymore. I'll never forget when Tony D'Angelo made his NXT debut in ring, and I actually watched esteemed journalists out there photoshopping the NXT championship to Tony D, and they're saying, put him on the fast track. He's got it. Motherfucker didn't even have 15 matches under his entire career. People are already saying that. So we got to be patient with this. The problem is, you're seeing the bloodline brick wall in full force right now. You got LA Knight, has his match with Roman Reigns, gave the fans what we wanted, did it at Crown Jewel. It was great. Still, the storyline is very, very shoddy because this is not a knock on Nick Aldis. This is strictly storyline. Nick Aldis, quick to suspend Kevin Owens for stunning Grayson Waller, even though Grayson Waller provoked it. But yet, Nick Aldis is still out. He's still looking for halalalala, if anybody knows what I'm talking about. He's still looking for that. Why is the issue of the bloodline repeatedly interfering in Roman Reigns' matches not being addressed? Doesn't make a SmackDown GM look all that sharp. Okay, address this, ignore this. Address this, ignore this. And yeah, as fans that are getting a little bit tired of the rinse and repeat, more people have to speak up about it. The reason why a lot of people don't is because certain characters are still very, very popular and they don't want to go against the grain. But let's get into the three important, aspects of SmackDown yesterday. First off, Asuka, Damage Ctrl, Survivor Series, WarGames, seeds planted. Then we'll talk about Rey and everything that went out down there. And then we'll talk about the stuff with Kevin Owens, because there is a specific reason why Kevin Owens was suspended. You could choose two scenarios, whichever path you want to go. But there is a specific reason why Kevin Owens was suspended yesterday. It will not last long. Let me just put it that way. But yesterday on SmackDown, Bayley comes out, and Bayley is cutting a promo, and she's addressing what happened with Crown Jewel and the return of Kairi Sane, and she wants Damage Ctrl to come out there and with Kairi Sane, and they hit the ring. And basically, we have to flash back to 2020. When you flash back to 2020, you remember that Bayley attacked Kairi Sane in the back, and that pretty much was the end of Kairi Sane in WWE. what some people pointed out yesterday, and that was good looking because I would have never even thought about it unless you saw the repeat of when Bayley attacked Kairi Sane 3+ years ago. Bayley was wearing the same pants on SmackDown yesterday that she wore when she attacked Kairi Sane. Yes, she's worn those red pants a lot, but yesterday it might have been a little bit symbolic. So they hit the ring, and they're going a little bit back and forth, and, you know, Io Sky made this decision. Dakota Kai is 100% for this as well. And, you know, Io Sky, in the best English she possibly can, you know, she wants everyone to get along. She wants everyone to hug. Now, we tease a little dissension between Bayley and Kairi Sane for obvious reasons, but in the end, Kairi Sane accepts Bayley's apology, or I should rephrase that. She forgives Bayley from what happened a couple of years ago. So they want to hug it out. And Bayley, she's not into hugs anymore. You know, she doesn't want to hug it out. So everybody else is happy. Bayley's a little, you know, concerned still. And here comes the setup for the main event on SmackDown. Asuka comes out. Bayley is in the ring with Damage Ctrl and Kairi Sane still. You got Asuka, Charlotte Flair, and Bianca Belair on the rampway. Nobody ready for Asuka. And their jaw jacking sets up 6-woman main event match later on in the night. So later on in the night, we get the match. Typical SmackDown match. We've seen Bianca go up against Io Sky, Bayley. We haven't seen Kairi Sane go up against these women in quite some time, but we know what she can do. And the match was very, very competitive. Little bit of a back and forth match. They gave them enough time to set everything up. But early on, you got Charlotte Flair and Bianca, the two primary women in this match. And you start thinking to yourself, okay, something may be going down with Asuka. So what ends up happening is Bayley, she ends up planting, she gets planted by Bianca Belair. Bianca Belair goes for the hot tag on Asuka. And Asuka, that Kabuki warrior, that Sky Pirate, you nasty bitch. She spits the blue mist in Bianca's face. Bianca is blinded by the mist. We get a little bit of a hug between Kairi Sane and Asuka. A little bit of Kabuki warriors reuniting. And now the beatdown begins. Charlotte Flair tries to make the best of it, but she ultimately gets her ass handed to her. Bayley's already knocked out. And then here comes Shotzi Blackheart to try to make the save. And Bayley's like, we'll take care of that. They basically leave her laying. And then you get Io Sky doing her patent moonsault. You have Kairi Sane doing her beautiful elbow. I mean, you take still shots of that. That looks awesome. And they leave the 3 women laying. But as I said earlier, there is still a 4th woman missing in this deal. The big question right now is, who is that woman for Bianca Belair's team? If you saw my thumbnail from a couple of days ago, as of right now, Zelina Vega is that woman. Zelina Vega in WarGames, look, it wasn't that long ago in Puerto Rico. Yes, home base, you know, the reaction was incredible, but Zelina Vega, let's be honest, the days of her work when she was in the corner of Andrade are long gone. She is a lot better than what she was before. Plus, keep in mind, you have 8 women in a cage. You know, you're not going to have much focus on Zelina Vega. Everybody will get their spot. They'll get their moment. But it's not like a one-on-one match where all the focus is on Zelina Vega. You know, I know some people thought it was a little bit too harsh on Monday when I talked about this match. But if you tuned into Wednesday Night Dynamite this week and we got into the ratings breakdown, you know, I don't want to say it's vindication, but it's something that kind of backs up how I felt about it. Zoe Stark wins the Battle Royal, and she then confronts Rhea Ripley that she's going to challenge her at Survivor Series. And as I said on Wednesday Night Dynamite, that nobody is talking about. I don't know if they just feel that they're going to insult women, or if maybe one of Zoe Stark is going to find out and get upset. I'm a big supporter of Zoe Stark. I just felt I don't think it's the right time for her to take on Rhea Ripley. When Raquel Rodriguez got eliminated, and then Zoe Stark won and then confronted Rhea Ripley, the ratings dropped almost to 350,000 viewers. Anyone out there tell you that? No. Just like no one out there told you that NXT was number one for the night for any sports programming in that demo that everybody likes to talk about. So people kind of like hide some important factors. Zoe Stark is not ready for that position. She is the focal point going up against Rhea Ripley. ZELINA VEGA in WarGames would not be the focal point. So I don't think ZELINA VEGA would be a crutch in this. But a lot of people would like to see Jade Cargill in this position. Now, I'll be honest with you. When I look at this, to me, it feels more even this way. You put Jade Cargill, and this is not a shot, no pun intended, on Shotzi. This is not a shot on Shotzi. You put Jade Cargill in ZELINA Vega's spot. You know what that reminds me of? Maven, when he was in the corner of Evolution. You ever go, and I used to bring up this example. Actually, I brought it up back in the day with Maven. You ever go to a diner? You ever go to a diner when you were a kid, and the diner will give you like crayons and like a paper mat, and it would have like little games and stuff on it just to keep you busy so you didn't cry like a little fucking baby and annoy the other customers? On those sheets, many times it would say, pick the item that doesn't belong. And they would show like a tree. And in the tree, there would be a monkey. And in the tree, there would be a bird. And in the tree, there would be a lion. And then in the tree, there would be a car. Now, maybe some drunk drivers could achieve that possibility, but you were supposed to pick what doesn't belong. Maven next to Evolution was the car. You put Jade Cargill in that match, Shotzi is going to stand out, and it's unfair for Shotzi, in my opinion. I don't, as much as I want to see Jade Cargill debut, and I will say this, if Jade Cargill debuted, that would kind of, I don't want to say remind me of The Undertaker's debut, but remember when Undertaker debuted at Survivor Series? And everybody was making such a big deal about it. It was an unknown. I mean, sure, Jade Cargill is much more known to the casual wrestling fan. Back then, we didn't have the net. And Undertaker, that character had never been around. It was Mean Mark. So a lot of people, trust me, most of us back then, I know people today will say, oh, I remember. Yeah, when he came out, I was like, yeah, that's Mean Mark in WCW. No, you didn't. A majority of us did not know that was Mean Mark. But with Jade Cargill, it's a more recognizable name. And it would be, listen, that's right up WWE's alley. 2-3 years from now, greatest Survivor Series moments of all time. And Jade Cargill will be probably like 3 or 4 slots underneath The Undertaker's debut. I don't think you put Jade Cargill in that position. It would be really interesting, though. But ZELINA VEGA may very well still be in this match because the LWO. Actually, I was going to do a whole spoof of the LWO. Remember when Vince was bringing the NWO to the WWE for No Way Out? Remember he was sitting in a chair and he turned around, the NWO. I was going to do the whole thing about, spoofing him, but talk like Santos Escobar about interjecting a poison in the LWO. The LWO now, as we all thought, is kind of in shambles. And no disrespect to Cruz del Toro, Joaquin Wilde, but a majority of wrestling fans believe they've always been enhancement talent. Did you ever feel at any point this year that Joaquin Wilde or Cruz del Toro could have been in line for a championship opportunity? No, nobody ever thought that. You know, they're in the group because the LWO would look stupid with 2 members, 3 members. You have to add additional members. So yesterday, we had maybe a forced turn, kind of forced. You know, I mean, if you really think about it, to go from, you know, Carlito, you know, and listen, this is just my opinion. The way Carlito came out yesterday was not very good. It was somewhat confusing. And when Carlito looked at Rey and said, "Nobody wants Rey as champion, wanted Carlito," the fans were quiet because they thought that the fans, like, I don't mean this, well, I do. Some fans are extremely slow. They hear, but they don't listen. When Carlito started saying, "Nobody wants Rey as champion," like they thought immediately, "Oh, that's scumbag." But they didn't hear the other two. The last 2 words took a few extra seconds. It's almost like 56K modem that it takes a little bit extra time to register. You know, he says, "Rey, nobody wants you as champion more than me." And the fans are like, oh, yeah. And Carlito suddenly, like, pointing the finger at Santos. He left the brass knucks there. There was no insinuation that Santos left it for Logan Paul. If Santos left it for Rey, and Rey wants to go the Andre Chase route, "I don't use weapons. My hands are my weapons. Weapons. That's different. But it just felt so forced yesterday. The LWO, La Familia. Why would you think that Santos was trying to hurt Rey winning? If Santos wanted to hurt Rey winning, all Santos had to do at Crown Jewel is just punch Rey in the head with the brass knucks. I mean, I thought it was forced. But here is a couple of pictorial highlights from yesterday, which will kind of put this all together a little bit. So we had the LWO come out. Everybody but Carlito, because Carlito's about to have a match against Bobby Lashley, which was very good, I might add. So the LWO come out, and Rey is talking about how Logan Paul needed to cheat, needed to use the brass knucks, that he truly believes that if he didn't cheat or use the brass knucks, Rey would still be United States champion. And Rey vows that he's going to get the championship back. And then just kind of awkward, Carlito hits the ring. And Carlito immediately, you know, he says what I said earlier, which confused the fans, but something else. When Carlito says, "You don't want to talk about Crown Jewel? I will talk about Crown Jewel." Go rewind it. I think Rey talked a little bit too much about Crown Jewel. He sounded like a little baby, a complaining baby. He cheated. And I lost because he cheated. And I'm going to get my belt back. And if he didn't cheat, I would still. He talked a lot about Crown Jewel. So Carlito, with that scripted statement, "You don't want to talk about Crown Jewel? I talk about Crown Jewel." And he throws the accusation that the reason why Rey lost is because Santos left the knucks on the apron. And Santos is pissed the fuck off. And, you know, we almost get a pull apart with Santos and Carlito. Not for nothing, my friends. In storyline, I'm happy that Carlito is back. But up until this point, I'm like, you know what, Santos? Burn his fucking afro. Burn his fucking crazy hair. You know, like, shove that apple up his ass. You know, and then dance to his music afterwards. Like Santos, I would be fucking pissed. Hey, you know, they were going to use the brass knucks. I tried to help my friend. Big fucking deal. Let's break up La Familia because of that errant that Logan Paul somehow got the brass knucks. So they have a little bit of a pull apart. Rey is upset, and then Santos is like, I'm out of here. And as Santos is walking out, I'm kind of laughing because I'm like, Rey, you got 2 working knees, 2 working legs. Like, go after him. Santos wasn't running to the back. He didn't fucking, go on like a little motor cart. Like, he's just standing at ringside going, Santos, Santos, Santos. He doesn't go after him. So Rey goes to the back, and we get the match. And the match was fine. It was, Lashley and Carlito. In fact, this might be the first time they've ever had a one-on-one match, which, if that's true, that's kind of amazing, especially for how long that they were on the same roster back in the day. But they had a really, really fun match. The Street Profits remained at ringside. Cruz del Toro, Joaquin Wilde is at ringside. Santos Escobar would ultimately return, make an appearance, because what happens is towards the end of this match, you get the Street Profits doing what they do best, and that is beating the crap out of Joaquin Wilde and Cruz del Toro. And then Santos, because Santos is not mad at, his fellow Legado del Fantasma mates, he comes to the aid and starts brawling with the Street Profits. Leave my family alone. But ultimately, Angelo Dawkins gets a little bit of the best of Santos Escobar. Now, keep that screenshot in the back of your head when we go back to the match, because shortly thereafter, Bobby Lashley hits the spear, gets the win on Carlito, and then we get the beatdown by the Street Profits to Carlito. Now Santos is back in the ring. Now Santos is pissed off at the Street Profits as well because they just beat him down. But then here comes Rey Mysterio. Rey Mysterio comes to the save. Street Profits and Lashley exit the ring. And Rey is tending for Carlito and pretty much no-selling Santos Escobar completely. So Santos is like, you know what? Fuck you. Fuck you, you little midget. And he starts attacking Rey Mysterio. They start brawling. A little bit of reminiscent of when Dave Batista beat up Rey. And Rey tries to fight back a little bit, but ultimately Santos Escobar beats the fuck out of him, brings him outside the ring, smashes him into the ring steps. And then this picture is hilarious. I mean, Zelina Vega, you got to feel bad about, but she's crying like a baby. If you remember, my friends, I was thinking about this yesterday. Remember when Rey took on Santos? Remember when the match was stopped and then they had another match? Or even just the match itself. Zelina Vega was in the middle, like rooting for both sides. But if you remember, Zelina Vega towards the end was favoring Rey. She was favoring Rey. And I don't know if that will be brought back in the storyline because it was a very small matter of fact at the time. But Cruz del Toro, he's all upset. And listen, that could be the end of the LWO when you really think about it. Yes, it's only minus one member technically. But look, you got Joaquin Wilde and Cruz del Toro coming to the aid of Rey instead of walking off with Santos. So everybody turned their back on Santos Escobar. Now the big question, my friends, do you think Santos Escobar could become a upper Carter as a single star? Do you think so? I think so. My concern out of all of this, and it's not really much of a concern, but the concern should be for Joaquin Wilde and Cruz del Toro. Because Rey Mysterio, we're not going to see trios matches with Rey, Joaquin, and Cruz. Rey's going to be doing his own thing for the most part. And a lot of his matches, Zelina Vega doesn't always come out. So Rey will do his own thing. And if Santos does his own thing, you're going to leave Carlito Cruz, Joaquin, and Zelina Vega, that is kind of weak. That is very weak when you think about it. But to be continued. But now the beginning of the end for the LWO, I think, is on the horizon. That music has to change for Carlito. With Santos turning heel, Carlito probably isn't turning heel anytime soon. But the LWO, I think, look, they could still sell the merch. We don't have the NWO on TV anymore. They are still a top merchandise seller. You know, just because the LWO is not featured on TV like it used to, I just personally think, you know, as I said numerous times, Joaquin Wilde and Cruz del Toro were never in the contention for tag team titles. So they're pretty much enhancement talent. You look at their record, go check it out. I didn't bother looking today, but I'd be more than happy to pull it. I guarantee you that almost all of their matches, straight up, say a tag team match, 2-on-2, they probably have lost almost every single match. They might have 2 or 3 wins at the most. So now, how do we get Zelina Vega in WarGames? You could just do something as simple as we get a recap next week of what happened with Rey and Santos, and Zelina could be in the back, and then somebody bumps into Zelina and starts laughing at her. It could be Bayley. Somebody could laugh at Zelina for what happened last week, and then that could lead into, you know, Bianca could show up and save Zelina. Something as simple as that. Listen, Zelina Vega is not 100% lock for WarGames. I just don't know who would be a better replacement. People thought Piper Niven and Chelsea Green was somehow going to be in WarGames. I don't see that. But you look at that women's roster on SmackDown, there's not many other viable choices. And plus, you want to use someone who is a strong baby face, and Zelina Vega is over. But Mia Yim, they've done nothing with. I wouldn't mind it, but Mia Yim, they've done nothing with. You know, if you look, she's averaged 2 matches a month. Like 2 matches a month in their house shows. I think since June, she might have had 2 matches in July, 2 matches in all. I don't even think she's had a match in the last month or 2. I don't have her stats in front of me, but it is not good to just throw her back out there like that. Mia Yim could definitely hold her own in WarGames. Absolutely. If she was on TV a little bit more, I could see that. Right now, I don't. Plus, yeah, there was all these reports that AJ Styles was returning yesterday on SmackDown and all this other stuff, and he was going to confront this and that. And I'm like, where did that come from? You know, and plus there's a couple other storylines that they've kind of put on ice until after Survivor Series. You know, by now we were supposed to get Cross and Sheamus going at it a little bit. There's a little bit of concern about Cameron Grimes' future on SmackDown. And if you look, I don't have them here, but if you look at the promo posters for WrestleMania weekend, they show WrestleMania, they show the Hall of Fame, they show NXT Stand and Deliver, and 1 or 2 other things. And on the Stand and Deliver poster, there's only like 5 NXT stars. One of them is Dragon Lee. They are still showing Dragon Lee on the NXT posters. So he's getting a little bit of main roster taste right now. But what does that tell me? Dragon Lee will probably have a match against Santos Escobar. It'll be spectacular. Santos will get the win. And then once they kind of like used up Dragon Lee on SmackDown for the time being, he's going to arrive back in NXT. Just like Xia Li on Monday. We talked about it. You know, the best thing for her is to go back to NXT. And Tuesday, she was back in NXT confronting Lyra Valkyria. Smart thing to do. So I think Dragon Lee his ass will be heading back to NXT soon. Doesn't mean that he won't have a SmackDown match from time to time. And speaking of Dragon Lee, yesterday we had the rematch where he defeated Cedric Alexander. This is a case where I don't mind this match happening 2 weeks in a row because they tear it up. The only thing is, this is like an AEW match, and it's not a criticism. That's not a criticism. What I mean by that is, this is like a match that's put on TV because it's a good, entertaining match, but it's not storyline driven in any way. This is just two guys that could tear it up, that they work great together. Dragon Lee and Cedric Alexander was a lot of fucking fun. Dragon Lee gets the win, and, but after the match is over, it's like going to a movie that's not going to have a sequel, or yes, I know they have had 2 matches already, but it's like going to the movie and it's just a one-time movie and you leave and you have that good feeling inside. Oh, that was a great movie. And maybe you watch the repeat down the line, but you're not going to get a part 2 or 3 or 4. You're not going to get storyline advancement with this. But Psycho says Cora Jade is the 4th person. Listen, I am really, really big on Cora Jade. That is too much pressure. And I think Cora Jade needs to remain as a heel. Cora Jade as a heel is money. She is much better as a heel. I don't want the return of the skateboard. Even if she doesn't bring back the skateboard, I do not like the idea of Cora Jade. Here's an idea. Maybe we have to look at the NXT roster and see if there's anybody who has history with Bianca Belair that could possibly be on this team. But look, if you look at my thumbnail from 3 days ago, we got 7 out of the 8 right. So let's wait and see what they decide to do with Zelina. Maybe we'll run the table with that. Next week it'll obviously be announced because the week after is Survivor Series. Survivor Series is that freaking close. By the way, let me give you a little cheap plug for those that are interested. This Tuesday, Kevin and I will be returning for another special episode of the Don, Tony, and Kevin Castle show. The following Tuesday, the 21st of November, we are doing Survivor Series predictions. So definitely make note of it. And also the Q&A, because remember, I will be out of New York for Thanksgiving weekend. But I'm going to put up the thread on the YouTube community section. It's open for everybody hearing or watching this. Go there, post a question. I am going to record the Q&A next weekend, and that will be put online Thursday, Thanksgiving Day. So, in fact, I'm going to talk to Kev to see if he possibly wants to be part of this Q&A. That's why I haven't put the thread up yet. I don't know, because we're doing 2 shows back to back. I don't know if a 3rd show at that time is a little bit too much because he's got a very busy schedule, but it'd be fun to do one of these Q&As, with Kevin and I doing it together. So we'll see. We will see. Also, I'm going to save this for Wednesday because there's a lot of speculation and we kind of touched on it already, but I actually started getting in touch with some people. And this is interesting. And yes, I am using a play on words. This Wednesday, we will truly dive into the topic. If NWA, did they blow it? And yes, that blow is supposed to look like something. Did NWA blow it with that drug skit on their pay-per-view? I'll give you a little tease. Apparently, some people are not as upset as you think that they are. It was dumb. I mean, I've made that clear. It was a dumb segment. There was no reason to do that. To me, the only reason why that segment was done to get people talking about NWA. But keep in mind, in Impact Wrestling, we saw moida, as they used to say, murder. Impact Wrestling not too long ago, we saw a murder. You're going to say that a TV deal is going to be totally fucked because of a stupid drug skit, but murder? And look, I'll say it like this. Was there crazy buzz about the murder segment? No, people are like, it's wrestling. Murder's okay, but a little spoon to the nose, no. All right, let's finish up SmackDown. Let's talk about LA Knight, Grayson Waller, Kevin Owens, Austin Theory, because this definitely has Survivor Series implications. We had Kevin Owens on commentary yesterday. Corey Graves. Congratulations to Corey Graves and Carmella. For those that do not know, they had their first baby. Let me say this, how beautiful this is. And I'm not trying to be softy, but seriously, let this sink in for a minute. 1 year ago, at this time, Carmella was in a hospital because she had an ectopic pregnancy and a miscarriage. You remember when we talked about that a year ago? Not only is that awful, it is devastating for a mother to have not only a miscarriage, but the way that happened, because when you try to get pregnant again, you always have that mental fear that you're going to have another ectopic. See, I'm not familiar with the word because I can't get pregnant, and thank God I don't know anybody personally that had to deal with that. But an ectopic pregnancy, in the back of your mind, you fear, is that going to happen again and again and again? So let this sink in. A year ago, she's in the hospital dealing with that physically and mentally. And 1 year later, weighing in at 8 pounds and I think 3 ounces, Dimitri Paul Polinsky. Congratulations to Corey Graves and Carmella on the birth of their happy, healthy baby boy. Very, very cool. Yes, I had to write it down so I didn't forget the name. Dimitri Paul Polinsky. See, I have a memory. So Corey Graves was not on commentary yesterday because he is with his wife. He will return to commentary next week. They gave him a little time off. So Kevin Owens took his place. Now, on social media yesterday, earlier in the day, they showed Kevin Owens with Nick Aldis that he would love to be commentator. Nick Aldis says yes, but you physically cannot get involved with anyone. Otherwise, you'll be suspended. Seed planted. So Kevin Owens comes out there yesterday. He's got a goofy tie, wearing some goofy tie, and, fans are digging it. I enjoyed this so much because Kevin Owens, you remember when we just covered it on a history show 2 weeks ago when CM Punk was on commentary on Raw that time when the whole roster walked out and the announcers walked out and Triple H let CM Punk be on commentary for the night. This kind of reminded me of that. And Kevin Owens did a great job. Plus, he was with Michael Cole and Kevin Patrick. So Michael Cole obviously is going to run this thing. But Kevin Owens, comedy, old school, even a little tribute to Bobby the Brain Heenan doing his little brain scan thing, which I'll show you. But Kevin Owens is on commentary. And, the crowd is loving it. We're loving it at home. And, he didn't do too much, but he was very, very animated and shows Kevin Owens obviously could do this again in the future. But during SmackDown, we had LA Knight come out there and he's cutting a promo that it's not that he's done with the bloodline. The bloodline is not done with him. He is far from done with the bloodline, and Grayson Waller comes out. And basically what this is that Grayson Waller feels that LA Knight cannot hang with the bloodline, that he is not worthy to be in that position. So this sets up a match for later on. They have the match, and LA Knight, Grayson Waller did spectacular in this match. You understand the future for Grayson Waller. I know there's a lot of you out there that still haven't clicked with Grayson Waller, but you could see that WWE, they are completely comfortable. You remember who they have him interact with already. Then you think about Austin Theory and his interactions from The Rock and everyone else. These two guys, this might be technically your John Cena and Randy Orton of tomorrow. Not to that level, but I have always talked about this over the years. Back in the early 2000s, WWE had a conference call. Linda McMahon was part of the conference call. I still have the audio. I think I played it on one of the history episodes. And she was asked about stars coming up, and she said, we have these two stars that we're going to be bringing up soon, and we truly believe are the future of WWE. And their names were John Cena and Randy Orton. And you see what has happened. By the way, speaking of John Cena, yesterday I posted another retro episode featuring myself, Kevin Castle, Joey 924, and Black Moses. It's on Patreon right now. It'll be posted online next week for everyone. But if you can't wait, you could go there now. It was from November 10th, 2005. I posted it yesterday, 18 years ago yesterday, that aired live. And when I listened to it back, everything was about John Cena and Batista. John Cena and Batista. This was when Batista suffered the torn pec. But everything was about John Cena. And we even talk about it like everything on TV is John Cena, John Cena, John Cena, John Cena. So if any of you out there that were not WWE fans back in 2005, it'll give you an idea of the beginning stages of fans getting tired of Cena. Cena was all over the TV when he was still doing Thuganomics. But 2005, things started to change a little bit, and you'll hear it as it went down. But, Grayson Waller, hanging toe-to-toe with LA Knight, not only on the mic, but inside the ring as well. And they start brawling to the outside, and Grayson Waller is laid out, and Kevin Owens is having a lot of fun. Kevin Owens doing a little bit of Bobby the Brain Heenan's brain scan. He's doodling. He's saying, oh, Grayson Waller looks like he did 2 weeks ago when I knocked him on his ass. And he's doodling. And, it was fun to watch it. Kevin Owens was excellent yesterday. But unfortunately, there was a storyline attached to this. LA Knight gets the victory. After the match is over, Grayson Waller and Austin Theory are trying to provoke Kevin Owens. Kevin Owens understands if he does anything, he'll be suspended. He is backing off. He's trying to resist. And then Grayson Waller pours a bottle of water on Kevin Owens' head. And Kevin Owens is like, oh, fuck you. Fuck this. Kevin Owens stuns Grayson Waller. He takes care of business for both guys. And then later on, Nick Aldis suspends Kevin Owens until further notice. So Kevin Owens is suspended. Why did they do that? Survivor Series implications. There are two ways they're going to go with this. I'll give you the scenario that a lot of people are thinking that I don't believe is the scenario. Some people think that Kevin Owens will show up on Raw and then align himself with Sami Zayn's team for WarGames. Now, the problem with that, let's look at this team right now. If you add the fifth person, you obviously have to add a fifth person on the opposite side. Now, remember our big focus the last month, the Judgment Day and the Bloodline Alliance. What was the purpose of that if the Bloodline is not in this match? So you say to yourself, okay, you add Kevin Owens, you add Jimmy Uso. Why would SmackDown be fine with Jimmy Uso, being on this team where you got Raw guys? Now, Damian Priest and Finn Balor are champions for both brands, but why would Nick Aldis allow that? Why would Nick Aldis allow Jimmy Uso? Why would Nick Aldis allow Kevin Owens? He's still part of SmackDown. He's suspended. He's not fired. We didn't see Kevin Owens go deuces out. So that is the problem with that scenario. Here's another problem with it. What do you do with LA Knight? If you add Kevin Owens to this, what do you do with LA Knight? LA Knight's got to be on Survivor Series. So if anybody was going to be added, you would think LA Knight over Kevin Owens. As far as I'm aware, the reason why Kevin Owens was suspended is to explain why he's not on Survivor Series. That's it. Plain and simple. You know, because people are going to be like, oh, well, you can't find a spot for Kevin Owens on Survivor Series? No problem. We'll suspend him. He'll be suspended until Survivor Series is over. And who knows? Maybe Kevin Owens shows up at Survivor Series and does something, gets involved in some capacity in the match. But it doesn't make sense when you think, remember, if Nick Aldis and Adam Pearce were, amicable with each other and getting along, that's one thing. But they forced that friction on TV. So there would be no reason for Nick Aldis to allow SmackDown guys to fight, again. It would make no sense at all. And if you look at Adam Pearce, why would he allow somebody to come in that could beat up on his own Raw guys? It makes no sense at all. Unless they do something stupid where we see Nick Aldis and Adam Pearce have a meeting and they do their own alliance. It ain't happening. It's too complicated. They haven't even done anything about the Judgment Day Bloodline Alliance. There is nothing. Let me ask you this. As stupid as this sounds, this may be it. Was the Judgment Day Bloodline Alliance, was the whole purpose is just to explain why they interfere in each other's matches to help each other win? Like, they're not fighting with each other. Like, okay, the Judgment Day are in a match, so Jimmy Uso will show up and cause, they're not fighting together. They're just adding people to cause clusterfuck finishes. That's my honest opinion on it. And the worst part about it is the only two people in the bloodline outside of Roman Reigns is Jimmy Uso and Solo Sikoa. And I don't see Solo Sikoa doing all that much. So it's just Jimmy Uso. Did they do this whole alliance just to explain Jimmy Uso doing stuff? It's kind of what it feels like. That's pretty weak. So he is suspended too, Kevin Owens. So those were your match results coming out of SmackDown yesterday. Next week will be the next to last SmackDown before Survivor Series. So next week we should see WarGames set up. And who knows? I don't know if WWE would announce it before Friday, because remember, they announced WarGames, the night of Raw. They didn't wait a week to do it. They just did it Raw. They had Adam Pearce come out there, WarGames. I don't see Nick Aldis having his head turn red and scream out WarGames. I think something may happen next week, and then we'll just get the banner on the screen. I don't think they'll announce a WarGames match for the women prior to next Friday's SmackDown. Because if you put Zelina, or if you want to tease it, put a silhouette and a question mark, then, okay, who's going to be the fourth member? Who's going to be teaming up with them? You could kind of do that. You want to have some suspense and anticipation. That's what draws interest. So, okay. Rampage yesterday was live, and I will give you the quick results from yesterday. We had Ricky Starks over Preston Vance, Red Velvet over Ruby Soho, Mike Bennett and Matt Taven over Los Suavecitos. Yes, I think I said it right. Suavecitos. And FTR beating Commander and El Hijo del Viqueño. And if you saw that match, let's hope El Hijo del Viqueño didn't totally break his shoulder or fuck up his shoulder. You do those insane dives so people ooh and ah, and then he just plants his shoulder on the edge of that announcer's table. Like, I'm a fan of his, and he's so good. But how many times in the last 6 months have we heard that he's not medically cleared, he's injured, he cannot have this match was called off? That is not someone who is like in the top 5 in wrestling. You know, I could do insane stuff and look spectacular and break every bone in my body in the process. You know, he's a talented lucha libre wrestler. He should not be a talented crash test dummy. I hope he didn't get injured yesterday. So, Collision. Not going to give you spoilers, but Collision tonight, a little bit of a loaded card. Now, some matches that are not on this banner, I'm going to read you the matches. I will not give you the results or the spoilers, but if you are interested in Collision tonight, we have Andrade taking on Daniel Garcia. We have Dalton Castle taking on Nick Wayne. Lance Archer and the Righteous will be taking on Sting, Darby Allin, and Adam Copeland. And by the way, I do have the ratings and the details from Wednesday's Dynamite. We'll get into that next. We have Rush Andralistico with, I think he's with Jose the assistant, right? Yeah, they're taking on J.D. Drake and Anthony Henry, the workhorsemen. Darius Martin versus Roderick Strong. Julia Hart versus Willow Nightingale. Powerhouse Hobbs has a squash match. I don't know the opponent. And Claudio Castagnoli versus Toa Leona. I think people are going to probably tune into this for one match and one match only. It's not live. It's already recorded. If you are interested in the spoilers, you could go online and check that out. Sorry for the text message. I have some work got to do today. As long as no mafia people interrupt me. If you remember what happened last week, that was very, very annoying last week. Let me give you quick ratings from Wednesday. We'll talk a little Vince. We'll talk a little future of the Raw show, TV rights. We'll dispel a rumor, and we'll talk about why some AEW fans should be a little bit concerned right now. This is not doom and gloom, but it's definitely something you got to educate yourself about and be a little bit concerned with. All right, some good news. Impact Wrestling, I'm not going to give you the whole details now, but Impact Wrestling has now doubled their demo from 2 weeks ago. They are twice as better than the Blutarski territory, and they're close to back to 100,000 viewers. But this past Wednesday's Dynamite, I got to give props to Spoiler TV and Sports Media Watch. They're the ones that posted these numbers. I got a little bit of a deeper dive to give you some comparisons from Wednesday, but Wednesday's Dynamite did 804,000 viewers, down from the week prior's 832. Now remember, if it wasn't for the Tyler Bate Dijak match on NXT this week would have ended up with a higher rating than Dynamite. Legit. If you take that match off, NXT, I think, is at 809 for the night. But fans were not that interested in Dijak and Tyler Bate. Now, the high point of Dynamite this past Wednesday, outside of the Big Bang Theory lead-in, was, believe it or not, Samoa Joe and Keith Lee did 867,000 viewers. The low point from Dynamite was Red Velvet versus Julie Hart, the post-match to set up the match with Willow Nightingale and Julie Hart. And we have the introduction of Mariah May to AEW. That did 696,000 viewers. Now, a couple of notes coming out of Wednesday's Dynamite as far as ratings go, I think you would find interesting. MJF versus Daniel Garcia lost viewers as the match went on. I don't think that's an issue because some of those viewers were obviously the Big Bang Theory lead-in, but unfortunately nothing broke 900,000 viewers for this past Wednesday. They started at 892, and when the match was over, they were down to 833. Also, a positive, the AEW rating stood consistent during the first hour. Sting and Darby Allin's tag match against the Outrunners did 821,000 viewers. Swerve, Strickland, and Penta did 816,000 viewers. And that backstage confrontation with Chris Jericho and Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks setting up their Full Gear match, that did 818,000 viewers. So outside of the Big Bang lead-in, AEW's rating the first hour, consistent. Totally consistent. Second hour, though, kind of question the match placement when you think about it. The second hour just kept taking big drops. The Guns versus the Bollywood Boys lost 100,000 viewers. Right after that, Red Velvet versus Julia Hart lost another 100,000 viewers. So in a matter of 30 minutes' time, they lost 200,000 viewers. And for those that are curious, the main event of Jay White versus Mark Briscoe only did 749,000 viewers. That was your main event. And to me, we addressed it on Wednesday, there's no reason to add. Sometimes you add too many ingredients, you fuck up the sauce. The minute they added the stip that Jay White's title shot at Full Gear was on the line, as much as we love Mark Briscoe, nobody in their wildest dreams thought, oh, maybe Mark Briscoe could win this and he'll take on MJF in Full Gear. Yeah, and all that storyline for the last 6-7 weeks, you just flush it down the toilet. They add these stipulations thinking it's adding suspense, mystique, drama, like, oh my God, he could actually lose his title shot. No, you're not going to fuck up this storyline build. So they add that stupid stipulation that Jay White's title shot is on the line. So what happens? You know the fucking outcome. And it drew only 749,000 viewers. By the way, New Japan Pro Wrestling, I got to tell you this. I got to thank Spoiler TV for this. I just want to mention this. So when people talk about some people who are these gigantic ratings draws, this past week's New Japan, the main event was Will Ospreay versus Zack Sabre Jr. Extremely talented, no question. People want to make you think that Will Ospreay is the hottest prospect in wrestling today. He's extremely talented, but obviously they want to inflate it, especially if he ends up landing in AEW. It's going to be the same thing like others. But check this out. You had the opportunity this week to see Zack Sabre Jr. versus Will Ospreay. New Japan did 34,000 viewers for the whole night. 34,000. That just shows you there is no, if they're not on your favorite company brand, when people say, oh, I got to see Will Ospreay. We talked about it with Jay White. Jay White was in fucking Impact, and it drew nothing. It drew nothing. You have Bullet Club Gold on Impact. It drew nothing. So what does that tell you? Me, I'm not trying to compare it to these fans, but me, 20 years ago, if my favorite wrestler, or one of my favorite wrestlers happened to pop up on Impact, yeah, I'm going to watch it and see what goes on. If they pop up on, Ted DiBiase's promotion back then, I don't remember the name of it, I'm going to watch it. Like if some people that I follow that I'm fans of and, they're going to be on channel Telemundo tonight, I'll watch it. But today, these days, if it's not on AEW or not on WWE, people don't watch it. And that's concerning because that shows that a person is not as much of a draw as you think that they are. Okay. Let's finish this up. First, let's talk about Vince McMahon. All right. And this will tie into the SmackDown TV deal and something else that we're going to get into as far as Raw's TV deal. Okay. There was a filing. When people told you this week that a wrestling website broke the news that Vince is selling 8 million shares, they did not break news. They just saw on PR Newswire that TKO issued a statement on Thursday that Vince McMahon plans on selling 8.4 million shares. It was all over the net for anybody to read. I found it funny how they titled it. TKO titled the article, the statement, the press release. This is their exact words. TKO announces secondary offering of 8.4 million shares of Class A common stock by a selling stockholder. That's how they set it up. Vince McMahon is just a selling stockholder. Okay, this is the press release. TKO Group. Now listen closely, because there's been a lot of rumors that TKO may end up going private, going off the stock market. This might give you more reason to think that that could be happening. Not right away, but it could be happening. All right, TKO, Premium Sports and Entertainment Company, announced that one of its stockholders, Mr. Vincent K. McMahon, the selling stockholder, intends to offer for sale in an underwritten secondary offering of 8.4 million shares of the company's Class A common stock per value 0.0001, which is, the normal value, pursuant to the company's shelf registration statement filed. And here's where it gets interesting. Of which the company intends to repurchase the underwriter approximately $100 million of shares of our Class A common stock. So we got more than one aspect of this transaction going down. The selling stockholder will receive all of the net proceeds from the offering. No shares are being sold by the company. In connection with this offering, Ari Emanuel, the company's chief executive officer, and director Mark Shapiro, the company's president, CEO and director, and certain others of the company's directors have indicated an interest in purchasing up to $1 million and $850,000 respectively of the Class A common stock. That is about 30% of Vince's total stock ownership in TKO. Now, the stock immediately dropped from $85 a share to $77 a share when that was announced. Now, when WWE announced the SmackDown TV deal, the stock was at $105 a share. The minute the SmackDown TV deal was announced, that stock tanked into the 80s. So when you start doing math here, TKO lost over $1 billion when that announcement was made about SmackDown coming to the USA Network and the amount of money that they agreed to. Okay? Now, last week, Ari Emanuel, in a conference call about TKO's third quarter financials, was asked about Raw's TV deal. And Ari Emanuel made a comment that was really, really concerning. We talked about it briefly last week. He said that they have up until October of next year to negotiate a deal. That is beyond unacceptable. Your advertisers, your shareholders, they want to know what is the future of Raw programming. Their TV deal on Fox, on USA Network expires in October of next year. Basically, what Ari Emanuel is telling you is, look, we don't have a deal in place right now. And if we wanted to, we could wait until October of next year. We could hold out and hold out and hold out for the best offer. SmackDown was announced like this. So if you're telling people that you could negotiate up until October of next year, that means what you want and what you're going to get, those numbers are way different. And that is not good news for stockholders in the financial world. So the stock dropped another $2 a share last week when Ari Emanuel made that comment. So to summarize, I personally think once Ari Emanuel pretty much revealed that the deal right now for Raw is nowhere near completing, I think Vince McMahon has realized that I got to sell some of my shares because this stock keeps going down. If the stock dropped $25 a share because of a SmackDown TV deal, if that Raw TV deal does not shine, how much is the stock going to go down then? Remember when TKO announced about a little over a week ago that they're, reorganizing and they're reevaluating things? That kind of gives me vibes, not to the extent, but in 2001, when AOL Time Warner merged, and they looked at their books and they saw how much money that they were losing with WCW, and they said, we want wrestling off the TV. And I'll never forget the Monday Night Wars when they talked about WCW leaving. I remember it was Diamond Dallas Page that said on that documentary, but it's your top-rated show. Why would you drop us? Okay. This is going to lead into the Raw TV deal, dispelling a rumor and why AEW fans truly should be a little concerned right now. Vince sees the writing on the wall. Vince sees that Raw is having a very hard time working out a TV deal right now. NXT, not part of a Raw TV deal, is extremely concerning because they were being pushed as a package. And apparently NXT, which seems like the show that has the best uplift for the cheapest amount of money, the fact that it went to the CW network, is concerning that a network out there, it just wants Raw. And even at that right now, we don't have anything. So I think Vince selling 30% of his stock is in response to what's going on with the Raw negotiations right now. Vince has already lost $1 billion since the SmackDown TV deal was announced. I don't know if people understand that. Vince McMahon has 28 million shares. So for every $10 the stock went down, he lost $280 million. It was at 105. Right now it is at 77. So you add it up, you have an idea. So he's lost, close to $1 billion, 700 million, 750, I would say. That's a lot of money. So you sell your stock now, and then, you settle on this amount. Now, here's where this ties into Raw. Something interesting happened last week. Call it passive aggressive, I would say so. Something you don't normally ever hear. And we've talked about this with the Warner media press releases, touting AEW, touting their old TV shows, NBC Universal, touting their TV shows. Whenever you see networks talking about their shows or the future of their shows, if a show gets dropped, it gets dropped. They have to announce it. Sometimes when a show is not giving you the greatest return, but it's still on the air, they'll just leave that show out of a press release. Remember the controversy last year or the upfronts earlier this year where the USA Network, NBCU, didn't mention anything about WWE programming, and people are like, oh, they didn't mention it. No, that's because they don't know what the future is for WWE programming in 2024. You're not going to look at here's a good example. Look at the All In banner that was put out by AEW earlier this week about tickets going on sale in December. If you look at that All In banner, MJF is not on it. That doesn't mean that MJF is not going to be in AEW in 2024. As I've said before, I truthfully believe he's already signed. But the big storyline is 2024, MJF. You're not going to put him on a banner when we don't know what his future is publicly yet, because you put him on a banner, you could have a whole bunch of people say, why do you have MJF on the banner? He's not signed through 2024. Why are you doing that? That's false advertising. Then you leave him off and people will be like, MJF's not going to be here in 2024. They're posting it based on what's going on at that time. So let's get to Fox. The guy's name is Lachlan, I think that's how you pronounce it, Lachlan Murdoch. He is the CEO for Fox. And during the conference call last week, he was asked about why Fox is dropping SmackDown. I swear this is not clickbait. I'm going to read you what he said, which is very, very rare to have a CEO pretty much throw one of your shows under the bus. And the reason why they're dropping SmackDown is something that if you are a Stark fan of AEW programming, you have to be concerned. I understand Warner Media is not Fox, but they all work the same way. Warner Media is not going to bend over backwards because they love Tony Khan or they love pro wrestling or they're infatuated with Sting or they love CM Punk. Business is business. During the conference call, when he was asked why they're dropping SmackDown, this was his response. Very quick, but it's very telling. He says, and I quote, "We analyzed the WWE renewal and we looked at all of our sports portfolios the same way. Based on the analytics, from an advertising point, commercials, advertisers, from an advertising point, we were not hitting the advertising numbers due to the audience of the WWE to make the return for our return and our investment on the above levels that we would accept." He's blaming this on not getting enough return in advertising and the fan base. Also, we didn't attribute enough significant retransmission revenue to the WWE either. So it made sense for us to move on. They've been a great partner for him, but he threw WWE under the bus. Now, let's put this in simple English, and I'll show you why I have that USA Network banner on the screen. You look at the commercials that air on Fox during SmackDown. And the thing is, there are a lot of big advertisers out there that will not advertise for pro wrestling. So when Fox signed with WWE 5 years ago for SmackDown, they go to the advertisers and they present, this is the programming, this is prime time, this is what we're offering. And a lot of the advertisers that advertise on sports did not want to advertise on WWE programming. So what happens is some of the bigger money payers in the advertising world are not advertising during SmackDown. So Fox is not getting the revenue that they expected. Notice nothing about ratings here, but ratings have to do with it as well. Because if your advertisers are not thrilled about wrestling, and then on top of it, they're not thrilled about the numbers, I don't believe what some legends in the wrestling world said, that WWE promised 5 million viewers 5 years ago. That's bullshit. Or 3 years ago, whatever the deal was, that's bullshit. There was no way that they were 2019. So it's 4 years because there's a year left. So 4 years ago, there's no way that WWE guaranteed 5 million viewers. That's insane. That's stupid. Nobody thought that. But the thing is when the quality of advertisers are not what Fox had envisioned, and then you see the fans, a lot of the commercials don't even reflect their demos. You have 18 to 34 demo. You want to advertise commercials that target that demo to get them to buy those products, to get them to be interested. Does an 18 to 49 demo want to see, I've fallen and I can't get up? Or you want to see promoting Geritol? It's got to talk. And unfortunately, a lot of those big advertisers do not want to advertise on wrestling. So now, why should you be concerned about AEW? Here's simple reason. A lot of those same advertisers do not advertise on AEW either. And the advertisers that you do get, you think those advertisers are happy that on a Friday night, even though it's 10 p.m. at night, that there's only 350,000. Last week, I don't even think it hit 300,000 viewers. Collision, for all of the prime time advertisers on a weekend, on a Saturday night, you don't have the advertiser you normally would for sports because it's pro wrestling. And then on top of it, you're going to other advertisers and say, hey, do you want to advertise on Saturday night? We have this show Collision, and this is what we offer, and these are our ratings. So you're 18 to 34. When everybody obsesses about 18 to 34, you could have a 0.28, you could have a 0.35, but if your overall number is only 400,000 viewers, your overall 18 to 49 demo is only 160,000 viewers. That's why I always base my viewing on the total viewers, because you could have a 0.10 in an 18 to 49 demo, but if you're drawing 2 million people, that 18 to 49 will be hundreds of thousands of people still. And when people say, oh, AEW was number 3 for the night, and you say, how could that be? Number 4 and 5 are 2.5, 3 million viewers, and AEW is only 600,000. Oh, but the 18 to 34 is 0.24. You got it. So when advertisers see these overall numbers, and they say, wait, the 18 to 34 is 0.26. That's impressive. But the overall number is only 500,000 viewers. What do you think? There's a million 18 to 34s, but only 500,000 overall viewers. So the lower overall viewers you have, the lower 18 to 34s, 18 to 49s you have. So when Fox on prime time, 3 million, 2.5 million, 2.6 million, 2.4 million. They're averaging 2.4 million this year. Fox, prime time, 2.4 million, says not good enough. You're telling me Collision, Saturday night, prime time, 1/3 of the viewers? And that's it's actually 1/4 of the viewers that you can't get the advertisers you normally get because it's wrestling. And then you have 1/3 or 1/4 the viewers that Friday night has. And Warner Media is going to sit back and say, yeah, we'll keep it going. We'll keep it going. At some point, Warner Media has to answer their stockholders. Somebody sooner or later is going to be a stockholder in a conference call and is going to ask Warner Media, why is this show in prime time that only gets 400, 500,000 viewers, and then you see the advertise. If this is an issue for Fox, why would you think it would not be an issue for AEW? So I know people out there are extremely obsessed about the demo, but when your overall number is shit, I don't care what percentage of the overall number. You could have 200,000 viewers and half of them be 18 to 49. You could say, oh, half of our viewers are 18 to 49. Yeah, it's only 100,000 viewers. So keep in mind, SmackDown has 800,000 viewers in 18 to 49? At some points this year, SmackDown was over 1 million viewers in 18 to 49. How many viewers do you think are in 18 to 49 demo on some AEW's programming? 1/10 of that. 1/5 of that. 1/7 of that. So when you see Fox telling you, this is not for a wrestling news site. This was not ProWrestlingSchmuck.com asking this question. This was a person in the business world asking, why are you dropping SmackDown? Because the advertising revenue and what we're getting back is nowhere near what we expected. And then you add on the wrestling audience, that makes it worse. Why is AEW any different? So if Fox is going to do that, even if Warner Media says to AEW, look, you can stay on the network, but we're not paying you nothing. That's not going to happen, but, there's so much money being lost in the advertising world. How do you make up for that? The only way you make up for that and you answer your stockholders is that you offer Tony Khan a renewal deal at a much lower amount of money. So how does the USA Network tie into all of this? The USA Network signed SmackDown. Right now, the NBA is negotiating new rights for 2024. And I had something here. Okay. In March, in March. And this is why we may not find out where Raw goes till at least March. In March, ESPN, ABC, Warner Brothers, and others, they will get a 45-day negotiation period to renew media rights. Remember early this year, a lot of wrestling news sites reported that the time window to negotiate SmackDown went and expired. Now anybody could negotiate. This is what's happening to the NBA in March. In March, the current networks that air NBA programming get 45 days to negotiate with the NBA to renew for another TV deal. There's a lot of buzz that ESPN and some others are willing to talk, but they want to downgrade their deals. Now, right now, it says that ESPN and ABC airs 165 regular season games, and Turner Sports runs 106 games. So now Peacock is negotiating or wants to get into the possibility of getting NBA on their network. Peacock is NBCU. Peacock is also USA Network. There is a lot of belief that Amazon or Peacock or another streaming TV service will get some NBA rights. But here's the deal. If Peacock signs a deal with NBA, it could stream on Peacock Live. It could stream on USA Network Live. So when people say to you right now that the USA Network is negotiating with the NBA, that's actually not true. Because first week in March, it might be March 9th, is when that 45-day window opens. So when the NBA opens up, Peacock is going to be part of those negotiations. If Peacock does not land a deal for NBA programming, especially if their intentions were to air it on the USA Network, then USA Network is shit out of luck outside of TV reruns or movies. And that is when the USA Network and Peacock may be interested in going back into the pool and negotiate a deal for Raw. As of right now, they do not want Raw. They want to, and again, if they were close to working out a deal for Raw to keep Raw on the USA Network or even NXT, that would have been announced with SmackDown. If they would have announced SmackDown and NXT together, it probably would have been received a little bit better. If they would have announced SmackDown and Raw together, probably would have been received a little bit better, just providing how much the revenue is. So right now, March, unless another network comes in with an insanely good deal that is going to boost that stock for TKO, we're not going to hear anything until March, April, or May. So hopefully I explained it in simple English. You know, I try to do it that way so everyday people like you and me could understand it a little bit better. But the NBA is going to weigh heavily on the future of Raw's programming. And as of right now, some of these networks involved, they don't want to pick up NBA and WWE. It's billions of dollars. It's billions of dollars. Now, one thing I will dispel, I've said this once before, I did a little checking, and now I could put an exclamation point at the end of it. The reports by some of your journalists that charge you money, no, I'm not talking about Fightful, but some of the others out there, they have told you that Warner Brothers Discovery is a favorite right now to land Raw. That is as credible as when the same people reported that Shad and Tony Khan were in the mix of buying WWE. These are the same people that wanted you to, and you know why they did that? Because by putting Tony and Shad Khan's name as possible owners of WWE, that's news. That's a Google search. That gives more exposure to AEW. That gives the impression that AEW and the owners have so much money that they can afford to buy WWE. They were never in contention of buying WWE. They did not want WWE. It's not even an ounce true. Take note how Tony Khan never ever said, no, we're not interested in WWE. Somebody asked him once, he's like, well, we look into all possibilities of that. Fuck you. It's either a yes or a no answer, So the idea that these same people are trying to tell you that Warner Brothers Discovery is in the mix, that is a beyond bullshit. Because imagine this is a publicly traded company, TKO, Endeavor, WWE. Imagine the stock, forget the internet wrestling community. You got people dancing on the carcass of Vince McMahon. He's not even dead yet. Imagine the internet wrestling community's reaction. Or better yet, imagine the financial world's reaction that the competitor, All Elite Wrestling, that is on Warner Media's networks, is now going to host WWE programming. That concern and fear that Warner Brothers Discovery is not going to go balls out in pushing WWE to their max, that they may have to share it with AEW, that stock would nosedive. There is no way that a publicly traded company is going to go on a network where their competition is also there. And what happens if Warner Media doesn't negotiate great advertising deals, doesn't plug it all that much? That was the big problem with ECW when they went to TNN. When TNN brought ECW on, we saw the first week commercials airing during Starsky and Hutch, airing towards MXE, I think it was, where the Japanese people would just make fools out of themselves in these dumb athletic competitions. We would see ECW commercials all day long and be like, oh, that's so fucking cool, ECW. After 1 week, there was no commercials anywhere, and instead, we were showered with Rollerball. And I remember Paul Heyman in 2000 audibly complaining that TNN doesn't even plug us, doesn't even advertise us. If you don't advertise us on the networks and let people know that we're going to be on, how are people outside of wrestling going to even know? So believe me when I tell you, I know I'm a nobody in this, even though I'm doing it longer than anybody else, but I tell you this straight up. I lose viewers because I don't clickbait. I don't write any catchy things to draw you in. But I'm telling you, at the end of the day, this is the same shit like Shad and Tony Khan wanting to buy WWE. Just like the CM Punk stuff that people are doing to you right now is the same people that told you Mercedes Moné was going to appear on Dynamite. It did anything to get you to click is what they're doing. Warner Media Discovery has zero chance of bringing Raw to the net. That's just one of the dumbest fucking things. And you know what's sad about it? A lot of these journalists that are feeding that bullshit are probably giggling. They probably go to a Starbucks and it just sounds like Beavis and Butthead laughing. Like all these people click like they're just laughing. Like, look at all these morons that actually think that's a possibility. There's an old saying, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. So all these people keep beating this shit with the CM Punk and all this stuff. LA Knights reach the ceiling. It's bullshit. Bullshit. All right. I'm going to get out of here. So tomorrow, 8:05 p.m., I will be here live for the sit down. If you have any questions, we will be doing it live. So you dictate what we talk about tomorrow. This Wednesday, yeah, I know it's a little bit in advance, but I don't know. I kind of enjoyed making that font. Did NWA blow it with that cocaine skit? Believe it or not, it's not as bad as you think it is. But at the same time, the deal that was pushed before this drug skit was highly exaggerated by the media world. But we'll also talk a little bit more about NXT coming to the CW and the possibility of it airing on a night other than Tuesday. There's a few other tidbits that we'll talk about on Wednesday. And then we also have the go home, I believe, for Full Gear. So we'll talk about that as well. And hopefully you could join Kevin and I Tuesday. If not live, then check out the replay. And I will talk to Kev this weekend to see if, he and I, we won't do it live, obviously. We'll have to do it on his schedule, but see if he can be part of next week's Q&A episode. If not, then I'll just post the thread in the community section. We'll do a normal episode. And then, again, on Patreon right now, we posted a couple of episodes. I have somebody that took a couple of my hotline reports from 2001 and is running it through forensics right now to try to boost up the audio, because the audio is from a cordless phone. And if anybody remembers the audios from 25, 30 years ago, if you ever recorded put it this way, play an answering machine message, that's what the audio sounds like. I have somebody running 2 of my hotline reports through forensics to see if they can boost up the quality of those audios. If this works, it's going to be a game changer as far as all the retro content being uploaded. So it's going to cost a couple of bucks, but I'm sure we'll get it back somehow. But I want to thank you all for joining me, and hopefully I'll see you this weekend. If not, Monday, we'll see what progresses with Survivor Series. Right now, we got 3 matches announced. Ox King, welcome to the family, Ox King. Much love. But right now, we got 3 matches announced for Survivor Series. We have the WarGames for the men's side, Rhea Ripley and Zoe Stark, Miz and Gunther. We should get at least 1 additional match, maybe 2, announced on Monday. And then SmackDown, obviously, the seed should be sprouted for the women's WarGames match, and we'll see where it goes from here. So much love, everyone. I'm out of here. I'll catch you all again soon. Be well. All the best.
As far back as I can remember, I always wanted to be a podcaster. For me to live any other way was nuts. To me, those goody-good people who worked shitty jobs for bum paychecks and took the subway to work every day and worried about their bills were dead. I mean, they were suckers. They had no balls. If I wanted something, I just took it. I ran everything. I paid the bills. I paid the host. I even paid the masked maniac. Everybody had their hands out. Everything was for the taking. We always called each other good fellas. You would always hear from somebody. You're gonna like Don Tony. He's all right. He's a good fella. He's one of us. But if you're part of my crew, nobody ever tells you they're gonna get rid of you. It doesn't happen that way. There weren't any arguments or curses like in the movies. See, your haters come with smiles. They come as your friends, the people who've claimed they care the most for your life. And now that's all over. And that's the best part. Today everything is different. There's lots of action. I don't have to wait around for everything like everyone else. Oh, I didn't get the vaccine? Fuck you, vaccine me. Oh, your delivery guy has COVID? Fuck you, feed me. Right after I moved here, I ordered egg noodles and ketchup, and I got spaghetti with meat sauce. I'm no longer an average nobody, while they get to live the rest of their lives like a bunch of schnooks.